We want to thank Jessica Burkham for joining us tonight. Jessica is now with the Beef Alliance. She was formerly with Farm Bureau. She grew up in Nebraska on an Angus operation and spent 6 years working in Washington, D.C., working for two Nebraska senators, handling agriculture, energy, and the environment and trade policy portfolios, including the 2014 and 2018 farm bills. During her time on the Hill, she also earned her master's in agriculture economics from Purdue University and her MBA from Indiana University. We are very glad to have her here in Arkansas. She's actually native to our county. Her and her husband live in Glen Rose. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jessica, and she's going to talk to us tonight about rural advocacy.
Great. Thanks, Rachel. I really appreciate you having me. How's my internet connection? Am I good?
It looks
okay.
Great,
because I am at home right now in Nebraska, and my parents have terrible internet. So I just want to make sure if I ever go off, just holler at me. So I'm going to share my screen. Yes. So it's really awesome to be here today virtually for Annie's project. I was doing some checking on it and some research, and it's a great organization and a great program. So I'm really honored to be part of it. Yeah, who am I? Who is this redhead? So as Rachel said, here in Nebraska, just cow-calf operation here. So I grew up in ag. Yes, I was in DC, so definitely a swamp monster. I was there for 6 years, and that's where I met my husband, Cody, who was also working on the Hill. He came back to Arkansas. He's the exec for Arkansas Cattlemen's Association. So
hey, Jessica.
Yes.
You may shut your video off because you are breaking up a little bit.
Okay, let me stop my video. Is that better?
Yes, that is much better.
Perfect. Okay, thanks. So, yes, Cody and I, we bought land last year outside of Glen Rose, and can't wait to get some Nebraska replacement heifers there soon. So, I've been involved in rural advocacy in some way or another throughout my entire professional career. And you can kind of see some of my education background there. It sounds way cooler than it is, but I do have an animal science undergrad, ag econ master's, and an MBA. So some issues that are impacting the livestock industry, and I'll just kind of back up a little bit. I did come to Arkansas and work for Arkansas Farm Bureau in their government affairs department, and it was an awesome experience. And then now most recently have joined the Beef Alliance, which is a group of more progressive, innovative cattle feeders, cattle feeding companies in the Pacific Northwest, Nebraska, Kansas, Texas, Arizona, Colorado. And so I work remotely from Arkansas, doing that right now. So is my issues that I think are impacting the industry right now. Marketing, the code hided some weak links in our supply chain value added system here in the United States, Arkansas, as we are not a feeding state. We are not a processing state or red meat processing state. We certainly have a lot of poultry processing capabilities that is joined together. Another issue, sustainability. Is it a fad or is it here to stay? We hear a lot about it in trade press. We hear a lot about it. Deal with our customers, how we build those relationships with our customers. So I'll talk a little bit about that. And I don't want to make you go to sleep, but we are going to talk a little bit about taxes, especially right now as Congress is looking at a 3.5 tax is stepped up basis and how that will impact the next generation of producers. So as I mentioned, prior to COVID-19, Arkansas only had 3 USDA inspected facilities. And for those producers who use the farm to table method or farm to table movement to promote their beef, promote their pork, lamb, it has to be inspected in order to be sold at a retail level. Yes, you can sell halves and quarters from a custom 10 pounds of ground beef into it needs to be inspected, and we do not. Prior to COVID-19 and during the pandemic, this is not anything new in terms of stories, but we heard from folks that we're having to schedule out 2 years in advance to process an animal, and that animal wasn't even born yet. So just a lot of uncertainties and risks that had to be taken. So we association 100 feeding the Hunger Alliance and the Department of Ag, we figured out how to increase that local processing capacity. And we utilized $10.4 million of CARES Act money that came to the state. We divvied it out among 33 facilities. And as of this day, point of that 10.4 was to get some processors interested in state inspection. And we knew we had a lot of homework to do, and we did that during this previous legislative session. We now have Act 418, which establishes a state meat inspection program under the Department of Ag. Have our very own Deanne Vaught and Senator Ricky Hill were our champions there. The Department of Ag has now actually hired former Representative Dan Douglas with USDA, so we can now have state inspection. And the idea is and meet local demand, and we feel that that is definitely there. So a big win, and something I encourage everybody to take a look at, visit with your local processor. They don't have to have a state inspector there every single day. They only need them once or twice a month, depending on their business model. It does, an inspector does need to see the animal alive, and then when the animal is processed. So that's definitely something we hear about them now, tons of grant and low interest loans for increased local processing capacity. Sustainability, bad or here to stay? I'm telling you, it is here to stay. This is going to happen regardless of what administration is in DC, in Little Rock, you name it. Sustainability is here. And it's such a buzzword, which is frustrating, because how do you define it? When you think of sustainability, I think my dad and mom would say, well, we're sustainable because our cows pay their own feed bill. Sometimes, not, give or take, but, that's them being sustainable. In today's world, it's more we need more ways to measure sustainability. And that comes in the form of protecting natural resources, protecting land, water, minimizing inputs. And we know that producers are already doing this. They do not need the government to have, from a business perspective, it makes sense from just an environmental perspective. And it makes sense because this is what our consumers want. Our end users are asking for sustainable product. We still have, record high demand for beef. To, take a look at what's going on in the industry. We have anywhere from international companies to trade associations, to even individual producers who are taking initiatives to address the sustainability question. They're that consumers in a very positive, family-friendly oriented, and not only help us develop relationships with those and taxes. I will try to go through this as quick as possible. Two things that we hear a lot about right now, probably three actually: capital gains, stepped up basis, and the estate tax or the death tax. So capital gains are and so that is what capital gains, and the tax is owed on the amount of that property from its increased value since it was purchased. So say dad bought 80 acres in 1990, and he paid maybe $1,000 an acre for it. And right now that land is valued at $5,000. So that would be the difference. In the current capital gains tax is only 20%. And then you hear a lot about stepped up basis, which is the allows a farmer to pay on the increase. The land was inherited, not on the stepped up basis, and a decrease in the capital gains tax rate would be a combination we would be very concerned about, and could actually harm production agriculture, especially the next generation who may not be able to afford to inherit that farm. And then I don't have it on here, but the estate tax or the death tax. We would like full, I would say in the majority of ag, if not all of ag, would like full repeal of the estate tax or the death tax, but any type of hit on that tax would definitely be a concern. So right now we have Congress working for moving forward with a $3.5 trillion budget resolution, and they have to pay for it somehow. They have to offset it. So potential increases, farms are structured as corporations, eliminating that stepped up basis, and any decrease in that capital gains tax rate, that's really, really concerning. And we're going to have some major implications for the next generation, who we're already concerned about. The average age of a farmer in Arkansas is right around 60 years old. So how do we incentivize the next generation to come back to the farm? And they're going to have to pay all of these taxes and have all of these increased inputs and you name it. That really jeopardizes the future of agriculture. So this webinar is titled, Rural Advocacy. So, and I want to make it very clear that I am definitely speaking from, my personal perspective, not really representing anybody who I have formerly worked for or who I currently work for. But the biggest thing that I saw on the Hill and at Farm Bureau, and right now my current job, is it's important to get involved, be a part of Arkansas Farm Bureau, Arkansas Association, your local school board. Just be involved. And I know sometimes for us ladies, you go to that county cattlemen's meeting, and it's a bunch of men, and they're up there in age sometimes, and it can be very intimidating. But I highly recommend that you raise your hand and you keep it raised. And I'm going to share that I took that actually from Sheryl Sandberg, who is the COO of Facebook. She has a wonderful book called Lean In. Highly recommend you look her up along with her TED Talk. And she makes a point to say, raise your hand and keep it raised. Keep it up. Make them call on you. Make your voice heard. Because women have such an important story to tell in agriculture. We're daughters, we're wives, we're mothers, we're grandmothers, aunts, you name it. We have a story to tell, and our perspective is important. It's not only the men or who are involved in agriculture. So be involved, raise your hand, keep it up, tell your story. And I'm going to touch a little media. We all know how important social media is in our everyday lives. We don't like to admit it, but we see that screen time on our phone go up every week because we're always checking Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat. I'm sure I'm forgetting several here. But when you're on those social media platforms, regardless of age, tell your story and be mindful, be informed, be educated, and be truthful. I cannot tell you how many times there's, we all know there are so many crazy stories on Facebook, and you're like, I can't believe this actually happened, that so and so said this, or North Korea is coming. I mean, you name it. So watch your sources. We all know people who just share everything, and you just want to be careful of watch how many times you post something. I personally believe it's much more meaningful to get your advocacy out there, to get your point, get your story across, one post a day versus explain. Yes, people want to see pictures. They want to see your kids. They want to see your animals. They want to see your grandkids. But utilize the social media platforms in a manner that doesn't overwhelm people and turn them away from what you're trying to say. And then my biggest pet peeve is spelling and grammar. And I know I'm guilty of it. I know I've had a couple instances on Facebook or Instagram, and anymore now I get on a Word document and I write out, what I want to say, and I check for spelling and grammar, because nothing hurts your credibility more than having a misspelled word or poor grammar. Social media, tell your story, share stuff from, and triple check that spelling and grammar. And then volunteer, and I will give my mother credit for this. She mentioned how important it is from an advocacy standpoint of volunteering, of judging the bucket calf show at county fair, judging the record books, participating in mentoring programs. You can be an advocate for yourself, for your operation, and for Arkansas agriculture by being just a positive force in the community. And if you want to get out there even more, personal relationships with our elected officials, local, state, national, that's key. And I recommend that you utilize the Arkansas Farm Bureaus and the Arkansas Cattlemen's to develop those relationships. They will help you script for a phone call. They will, here we have the Lees at Flying Sea Ranch in Conway with Senator Bozeman was there at their farm. I know that those organizations are there to help you. They are there to help you with those relationships, and use the extension service. Certainly, they are the most well-informed and well-educated, and they can help you draft whatever you need drafted and whatever story that you want to help share. And so those are my big advocacy points. I'm sure I'm missing something, and I really commend anybody who wants to be involved in advocacy, because it's so important to tell our story, especially when there's so few of us involved in agriculture anymore. So with that, I will take some questions if And I'll stop sharing my screen. So yes, if anybody has any questions, please fire away.
I enjoyed this presentation, and I'm going to have to go back and slow down and replay this. Rachel, I'm so glad that you videoed this. This was super important stuff that I've been dying to know about, like about the taxes, and I'm the world's worst at letting spelling errors out, and it does affect your credibility more than anything, because I always when I see other people making the mistake, I think, oh goodness, bless their heart. But anyway, some very helpful, good things. Thank you so much. You were kind of breaking up, and it could be my service, but anyway, at least you've got the presentation. So I'm going to go back whenever you post this, Rachel, and I want to slow down and go through it again. It was really good. One of my favorites, actually.
Oh, thank you, Miss Jenny. I appreciate that. I will also share my slides with Rachel, and she can, blast those out to you as well if you want to, see them and slow down. I know I talk way too fast. Cody always is at me. He's like, Jess, we're in the South. We take things slower. You need to slow down.
Well, Jessica, I know I really appreciate you, especially since you're traveling and getting to be home for a few days. I appreciate you taking time to do this evening. And Jenny, thank you for logging on and joining us tonight.
Yes. Well, I know a lot of people missed out on a very, very good, informative presentation. So I'm very glad you recorded it. People need to hear this, and we need to invite her back.
Yes. And so, Jessica, this is one of those, we had to shift to virtual kind of at the last minute. And this program in person is phenomenal. I know Jenny's came to some of our in-person sessions before. Mm-hmm. And normally we've got a group of about anywhere from 10 to 15 ladies that meet once a week for 6 weeks every week. And normally it's a fantastic program. Being virtual, it's been a lot more spotty and here and there, but we will definitely invite you back when we hate to have us in person and do some more stuff together.
I would welcome that. And I know I talk the talk, but I'm happy to walk the walk, and you let me know. I'm happy to volunteer and be involved. It's very important to me to be involved in local agriculture in our local county. So I'm happy to do it.
Hey, we'll love to have you. We'd love to have you.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, thank you guys very, very much.
Thank you.
See you next week, Miss Jenny.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.